Welcome everyone to the Vision Board Workshop. If you're catching up on replay, I'm just having a lovely chat live with the participants who were able to make it. So that's been really beautiful. We've just talked about where we are in the world and how it's all feeling. So for all of us, actually, winter is supposedly coming to an end and we're starting to see a slight shift. So here in Northumberland, the daffodils are out, the tulips are on the way. And I've been down in London where things are a little bit further ahead. And seeing that, as well as being in a tropical greenhouse and a set of glass houses, was just such inspiration for this workshop. So I'm so excited. If you're new to Creatively Conscious, we do 4 workshops like this a year, and the premise really is around ways into creative journaling, so ways into our own unique creativity. There are no blueprints. I just hold space and put in prompts, and you're going to find your way with all of that stuff. So there are 4 of these a year, and then I've got a new arm of what I'm doing, which is called Your Self-Seeded Business, which is based on a group program that I just finished, and I wanted to make it accessible to more people. So we're going to be doing that too. So here today, we're starting with a blank piece of paper. So hopefully you guys have got that. I'm going A3 size, and this is just really a frame for our work. So we're not sticking anything down in this workshop, and I'll explain why, but we've got a frame for the work, and we need a frame big enough to be expansive on, but small enough not to kind of trip ourselves up. I mean, essentially, you could put this on a wall. You know, if you had a wall in your home or a pin board, you know, you could use anything, but you need a canvas with a frame so that it doesn't feel too daunting and you feel like you can work around the space and look at what's going where. I'm just going to grab, we're done with it. Here we go. So this is the vision board that I did last time round. So I put it onto a pin board after the workshop. So this one was my 3-year vision board. And in the same class, we also did a 6-month intention setting frame. So I had that frame and it was supposed to be 6 months of what I wanted my intention to be. I'll go and grab it actually later, but I ended up just leaving it on the wall. So it's been exactly 2 years, even though this was something that I wanted to kind of manifest and work on within a 3-year framework. It's been 2. And some of the big things that have come out of this work, and bearing in mind, it's relatively sort of abstract when you're making the vision board. The word sparkle was on there. As you probably know, I have a big Substack education space called Sparkle on Substack. The reason it's called Sparkle on Substack is because everything I tried before that I couldn't have. Substack wouldn't let me have it. So then I just had this like flash of like, I'll call it Sparkle on Substack. And so yeah, that's that. So that happened summertime last year. I also had this really lovely intention of for every wish there's a gift, so that's on here, and part of that was being embodied in a way that I felt like I could give things away from my work. So how would I give more to more people? How could I give things for free? How could I support people outside of just exchanging time for money? And so I've really gone into that, and I've given a lot of free gifts, actually. A lot of the self-published books that I made I now give away as gifts, and that feels really lovely to do. It's something that I've been really honored to make space for, the pay it forward model, the fact that I can make space for others. And whenever it's possible, I just say that out loud and say, if you need a free spot, please just email me. And that energy exchange of them emailing me and telling me, yes, please, I'd like that. It just feels so lovely to be able to do that. So that's on there. And then this kind of slow and steady was really important. So I was in sort of a real space of postpartum healing with my daughter. She's now 3. So I really wanted to make sure that I was enjoying family life and that space, but also building my business in a way that was going to work post-pandemic, because all of my events, projects and workshops were cancelled in the pandemic. So coming out of that, I was like, I don't want to feel like that again. Like, I don't want to feel like everything I've built up could just be pulled from underneath of me. I want a different type of business. Motherhood is on there, joy is on there, picture of the kids. There's a quote that says the best thing to do with the best things in life is give them away. So this real spirit of generosity and reciprocity, and that's been a through line in my work, but that was something that I was only being called to do at that time. Within the arts and cultural sector, there was a real feeling of like competition. It's been there, gently all through my career, but it was just ramping up, and the pandemic just exasperated that. And so I've just moved away from that type of work and really carved out something that I feel works for me. There's a little postcard with $1,000 on it, which was at the time when I made it a nod to I'm safe to, allow money to come into my business. I'm safe to think bigger. I'm safe to charge more than like £10 or whatever it was that I was charging. This was like really early days of my business. And I ended up winning $1,000 in an affiliate competition, which I wasn't expecting at all. And so when that happened, I also won a mentoring session with my mentor, the person that I learned loads and loads from, and they don't do those anymore. They don't even offer them. Like, it's a money can't buy prize, and I won it. So when I realized that that was on the vision board, that number, $1,000, yeah, it just blew my mind. It's been really, really beautiful to connect to, and it's been quite obvious when something in the 3D in real life feels like it's like that was on my vision board. It hasn't felt like I've like strived to get anywhere with this vision board. It was very just like, these are some things that I connect to and I care about. So that's where I went with this one. I also had a couple of sections, one around family and one around work, because the vision board that I'd done the year before had a section that was focused around health. And I noticed that it wasn't super healthy for me as a wife to a husband who's chronically ill to be really like so focused on health, because there's very little that we can control around Dave's illness. So I just took it off, and that's been quite liberating actually. So yeah, so lots on there. And one of the first things we're going to do is, if we already have a vision board, we're just going to have a bit of a look at our old vision board and see if there's anything that we want to move onto the new one. So I love to keep these. It's great to reference, but sometimes you're like, yeah, I do want to keep that actually. I want to keep that. I'm going to move that onto this blank sheet of paper. So that's the first exercise we're going to do. If you find anything, then we're just going to make a little pile. If you feel like you don't want to disturb it, that's okay. And I'll give you something else to do, but that's what we'll go into first. So if you don't want to disturb the vision board, or you haven't got a vision board and you've not done it before, one of the things that's really nice to do is just, obviously, I've just got a few different bits and bobs, brochures and stuff, is just get one of these and just start by like flicking through and notice what your eye is really drawn to, and the sliding scale of where it's like, oh, I love that image versus, yeah, like it's fine, So we've got that like, oh, that's nice, and like, wow, I really love that, or I could see myself in that picture, or I really like what that message is saying. So if you want to start that, you can. If you want to connect to your old vision board, and in gratitude, of course, of all of the beauty that it's provided, and see if there's anything that you want to move over. And we'll just do about 5 minutes, and then I'll bring everybody into the cut-in phase as well. Okay, so I'll go on mute, and I'll put these 2 exercises in the chat so you've got them. Okay. I'll just talk you through how that process felt for me, and I'll be super interested if anybody wants to put in the chat. Only in the written chat this way around, because it'll just make the time go too quick if we talk, and I want to make sure we've got time for all the creative exercises because you might want to revisit some of them. So one of the things that was written on my vision board was share your unique light. And I've written that down in my own handwriting. So I've started that on this page here, and this is going to become the new vision board. So I felt like looking at that board, that was the most important thing that I wanted to take with me. I also had these, so the adjective magical, beautiful or delightful in a way that seems removed from everyday life. And so there's something in working online that can pull us into comparison in the way that, looking at how other people are doing things or worrying if we should be in a certain place or whatever else. And for me personally, when I connect to my own magic, all of that noise goes away, even if it's there every day, even if I log on and I see other people doing amazing work, I know that I'm in my power and connected to my magic. So that's all good. So I kept that one. And then again, this idea of gifting. So the best thing to do with the best things in life is to give them away. And so for me, that's a rebellion against capitalism, essentially. So there's something in that I want to keep. And then this one, which I remember last time felt really bold, and it says simply a work of genius. And that is a space where I am connected to, can my work be seen as a work of genius? Can I see it that way? Do others see it that way? What is this? Like, is this a review of my work? Is this how I feel about my work? Is it how I feel about my writing? So there's still something in that isn't quite, hasn't quite come to fruition. When I looked at it again, I was like, yeah, come on, we can be brave. We can take that with us. So that's what I've got so far. Um, what happens usually when we're in this space, and obviously I'm stopping with you guys, but what I wanted to do was go more into the stuff around magical, and then the next thing that I picked up was this beautiful envelope that my daughter gave me for Mother's Day, and it says to a magical mummy. I just love that. Part of how I feel about myself relates to how, like, I want to make the kids proud. Like, it's less about anybody else's metrics and external metrics and like me sort of wanting them to be proud of me. So there's something really beautiful in that for me. So I'll probably go down that route next, and I might use that for the intention setting board. What we're going to try and do, and this will be really helpful for you if you've not done this expansive work before, is we're going to cut out images that we could imagine, oh yeah, like I connect to that, I could do that in 6 months. So for example, you could book a holiday. So you wouldn't be stopping yourself. You're like, oh yeah, I could definitely book a holiday. But at the same time, there might be somewhere really exotic that you cut out that you think, oh, I don't know that I could do that within 6 months. So it's kind of playing around with, yeah, that's really possible. I can see that in my mind's eye logically that I could do that within 6 months. And that feels really far away and really unobtainable, but very exciting. So we're going to play around with what comes up for the one space within the 6 months, and then what comes up for the bigger expansive space. I'm going to give you some themes to think about as you're cutting through the magazines. I'll put those in the chat, but they're basically health and well-being, wealth and security, family, joy and hobbies, and work. So there's 5 things to kind of work around with that. I'll put those in the chat. If you want to pull on one of those threads and like flick through with that filter, do that. To save time, you might want to rip them out and just have a pile of stuff ripped out and then come back to cut it out more neatly later, seeing where it all fits. But just a few tips. We'll go in again. I'll put that stuff in the chat for you. Okay, just a couple of tips as you go in. So I've been quite drawn to cut out words. I often am. If you are drawn to cut out a word, like I've cut out happy place here, but it doesn't quite work, just have another piece of paper where you can like write it down. So if it's like the typography is like stuck in the corner or you can't quite get it, still capture that and get it written down because you can weave that in. So the ways into creative journaling is a blend of creative processes. So we don't have to shy away from everything being magazine. You know, we can have our handwriting in there and there can be some real power in writing those things up and seeing how we connect to them. Also with textures. So this might not mean anything to anyone. It might be really abstract, but it meant something to me. Like I wanted this image. So I like the texture, I like the green. I'm not questioning it. I'm just like, I like that. It's going on. It's going to go on somewhere. It might have a word layered up on top of it when I put the vision board together. So I've got this simply online and I've got let the light in here. So this also had another number 9 on it, which I didn't want to cut off. I don't know why. I don't know. I can't explain the magic. So the 9's on. Um, this image that I ended up cutting out, which is actually the first image that I showed you in the holiday magazine, this resort is saying it's called like Magic Surah Green or something. So I was like, okay, we'll just keep that for now and work it out. Um, my son's handwriting, which I really loved and wanted on there. And then this ladder, which was connecting to sort of more of the business space and the question of when you got to the top of the ladder and you have a look at yourself, are you happy with what you see? What are we looking for in terms of attainment and aspiration? Oh, and an image that is definitely not my home, but one that I was curious about sitting in. And this can come up. So this can be like, well, that's not the way I would decorate my home, but we're not making a mood board, you know? So you can cut out an image that's like, I would like to see myself sat in that room. That would be interesting to me. I wonder what that would be like. So just a few little tips. I'm sure you're all having a lovely time, but just in case that any of that was helpful, don't shy away from the words. If you're called to cut something or take something, take it and put it in your little pile, and then we'll do some curation in a bit. Okay. So remember you can finish this off in your own time, but I'm trying to hold space enough so that we can get most of it there. So we're trying to just get used to working with our intuition, discarding, bringing things in, questioning it a bit. So we're going to do the curation piece now. We're going to curate for our 6-month intention. So this is deliberately loose as an invite to you. So my intention last time was around the word ritual, and it was something that I was drawn to in terms of a ritual for my well-being. So we're not trying to do everything. We're just usually honing in on what is one thing that I can work in within a 6-month container that is going to add value and joy and beauty to my life. So looking through the things that you've cut out, you just might get a little bit of a sense of, okay, that could go there. So we're going to just do 2 piles. We're going to do one to question that's around this 6-month intention, and the rest we're going to leave for the 3-year board. So if you do that now, just super quickly, we'll just have a minute or so to do that. Okay. I think some of you are finished. Carry on if you're not finished, and I'll just talk you through what happened for me. So some fear. So some, I can't put that there because I don't feel I've got capacity or time. Some, I'm really interested and curious about what that is. So I want that to happen quicker. I want to put that on a 6-month intention board. And somewhere it's like, oh yeah, that's obvious. Like I can see why I've cut that out now. So when I cut it out, I was like questioning why it was there, but now I've asked it to jump into a 6-month container. It's like, yeah, no, I do need to give some attention to that. So what I got was a beautiful sunshine. Vitamin D, so we'll make that one happen. Then I've got this number 9 because I'm just curious, and it says let the light in. Put that on there. I've got some watercolor, a watercolor paint palette. I've actually got one that looks just like that, so that's going to be really easy to bring my attention to. The magic of letter writing. So some of you will know, I do love to write a letter, and I do love to post things out. I've got my little boy's words. I've got this purse, and when I first cut it out, it's got UK money on it, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I was hoping it would have money from another country, you know, so we could go and like go on holiday or maybe go and like work abroad for a little while. But no, this is UK money. And what I felt this was doing was asking me to pay attention. So I got a new accountant last year, and there's the program that I have to sort of learn and use to send him stuff. So that's what that one is. I'm not getting away that easily. This one, I don't know. I just loved the color contrast. And then this one, it's like a little enamel pin badge, and it says tea and a friend, the perfect blend. I love that. And then the bike asked to go on there, green bike. So it's like my brand colors for Sparkle on Substack. But that was something that was, yeah, asking to be put in the 6-month space rather than the 3-year space. Now I don't feel like I've got enough left in the 3-year space, but that's okay. It means that these things are calling for some attention, right? So within 6 months, and those 6 months will go quite quickly, there's something for me here. There's a creative invitation, there's something to pay attention to, there's something that feels lovely and expansive around a holiday. And then this stuff we'll get to in a minute. So what we'll do is, now we've got that, or hopefully you've all got that, we're going to just try and arrange it in a way that makes sense to us. And I want you to let me know in the chat if anything comes up for you around that arrangement. So I like to leave a lot of space on vision boards, and not everybody does it that way. So obviously when I put this one together, I left quite a lot of black space because this is a pin board that I painted. But the reason that I did that is because it feels like there's space in between. So it's not so full that it's impossible. It's not so full that I can't see the words, that I can't see the images, the space in between. And hopefully this will be the same. But if while I'm doing this exercise, I'm like, oh, actually, that's one thing too many, it's either going to go in the discard pile or it's going to go on the 3-year board. We'll see what happens with that. So that's where we're headed next. So I haven't built a break in today, but if you did need to pop to the loo or make yourself a cuppa or whatever, you could go and do that now if you feel like you just need to sort of stretch. Um, Partly because when we hyper focus on this work, there's so much more that can come through. But if you need a comfort break, all good. I've got my tea to pour myself just in case I need that, so I'll do that. So that's all worked relatively well. I'll try and pick it up and show you guys. So obviously it's going to slide slightly, but there's a bit of space around everything. And these two things got moved off, but I'm keeping them in the 3-year pile for now. So we'll see what happens. Oh, and I had to cut one piece down a little bit, but that was all quite easy. Part of the reason it's easy is because it's an invitation. So it's an invitation to an intention. And with vision board work, I think where sometimes people go wrong is they try and kind of really hone in quite black and white goals on a vision board, but it's only ever intention and vision and that kind of communication with our subconscious and our creativity. So I want us to really stay in that space of like making decisions that kind of gut based, yeah, no, maybe. So the maybe pile is fine if you have a massive maybe pile, but hopefully you'll be drawn to certain images for the texture, the color, the words, the intention, and we'll just keep going with that. So with the 3-year space now, I want you to just have a look at what you've got left. So you might have stuff from your old vision boards, you might have some bits and bobs that you've cut out, and just try and see if you can see everything in one place. There are some big themes coming through for me, which is, it's always a surprise, but a nice one. You're like, oh yeah, that's what's going on. Good. Nearly put this one on the 6-month board actually, but it felt like too much work. It was a bit of a sort of question around, do I want to be doing loads of growing this year? Have done growing in the past and it's great. It's also a lot of work. So questioning that one for this year. Okay. So let's move that one up there. What I want us to do now is just leave this just for a moment. We're going to separate a piece of paper into 4. So just take a coloured pen and a piece of A4 paper is fine for this. What daughter's drawn on that one? You just never quite know. Right, this will work. So we're going to separate this into 4. And I want you to see if there's a natural grouping to some of these images. For example, I've cut out this one because it was kind of like an invitation that me and my husband could go somewhere really nice on a date. It had like a couple of wine glasses, and then I decided I was going to make it more abstract than that. So that might go in a space with like the holiday, for example, because we'll be going together. So divide it into 4 and just see if you can put the images within 4 quadrants and see what the themes are. We're looking for the themes. So some of it might be work, some of it might be home, joy, hobbies, friends, but just see what comes out and where you think the images should go or should be grouped together. See if it offers you something. And if you run out of, I mean, if you get done with that, then obviously go back to your magazines. Okay, lovely. So Sarah has to go. Thank you, Sarah, for being here. It's been so lovely to share space with you. So, yes, definitely get back to the replay when you can, and I'll just keep guiding you through. So put it all to one side, pause, and get back in. Okay, so what came up for me, in that space of separating everything out was the themes were around, and these words are really unique to me, which is why we're doing this work together. So the words were friendships, relationships, magic and creativity, joyful work, and travel and inspiration. So that felt like my groupings. And then, really interestingly, in the heart of it all, I had this happy place and happiness postage. So, and also simple online. So it's almost like the key to all of it and the key to feeling, congruent and joyful and happy and conscious in it all is this simplicity online. So whatever's happening online needs to be simple enough so that I can connect to the other spaces. The plants ended up in joyful work, even though I said to you, I was like, I don't know whether I've got capacity, because actually there is joy in putting everything else down and just connecting to nature for me. But sometimes it feels like more work, and I just have to be honest about that. So something else to do. Cleaning the chickens out, it's not my favorite job, but it needs to be done. And actually, I always enjoy the time outside. So everything to do with work and money and all of that sort of stuff went in that section, in joyful work. Then travel and inspiration, things like this, that kind of putting yourself in another place. The magic, the creativity was together. And then the friendships, relationships, and the happiness. I think within that as well, there's a bit of a sense of self in that. So here I am. It's not me, but it could be me. So she's going in. And that's what I got. So hopefully you can have a bit of a look at what you've managed to kind of work through, and then if there's anything spilled out into the middle. I think it's really good on vision boards to group stuff together, because otherwise it just looks like one complete picture, and we don't really experience human life as one complete picture. Lots of things are happening all at once, and we can sort of segment our life a bit, like, okay, like my work's great, it felt joyful, but now it's finished, what am I doing now? And we can give too much onus to one thing. So if we didn't have very much in the sort of friendships and relationships part, but we had tons in the hobbies part, it might be that we're quite introverted, and that's fine, but it might be like, oh, maybe there's some scope there to kind of build some friendships in a way that feels nice to do. Again, not everybody will have like travel and inspiration as a place, but there'll be something else that you're like, oh yeah, I'm curious about that, learning, or anything really, like any sort of self-development topics could all be grouped together. So now I've got this piece of paper with my themes on, and I'm going to layer up the pictures on top of this piece of paper, so my writing's underneath. There's power in that because it's my writing and it's my words. And there's also that kind of clarity around, okay, like this is what I feel is important right here and now today, but also connecting to that like 3-year journey of, is this expansive enough? Like, these are the things I connect to. Am I being expansive enough? If I think about myself in 2027, 2027, do I still want this life, or do I want something that looks different? Like, is there anything else calling to me? So I'll put these out on top of the words that I've written, and I'd love for you to do the same. And then I'm going to revisit how that's all been arranged and ask myself some questions around, am I being expansive enough? Have any of my self-limiting beliefs crept in? Is there anything that I'd like to ask myself, or any intentions that I'd like to set? And we'll do that together afterwards. Okay. So hopefully that's going quite well for you. This is a really nice time and space to kind of go, okay, done some groupings, we've layered on some images, what can sit on top of one another? And what I've learned in the past is when we stick things down and things are hidden on the vision board, the vision isn't the vision. You have to be able to see it. So sometimes I've like moved a piece because I use pin boards a lot. Sometimes I've moved one of the collage pieces and seen something underneath that I'm like, oh yeah, like there was that piece of the picture and actually that needs some more space. So I'm being really intentional here with giving enough space to everything that I've decided to kind of set as an intention for the next 3 years. My question is around, is this expansive enough? Like, that is the question. Like, is this expansive enough for 3 years? Does this feel like me? Does it feel familiar? Does it feel like there are some big leaps or some exciting things or some things of curiosity? But we want it to feel expansive enough. If we've got space, any space on the vision board, maybe that's purposeful and maybe actually there's another thing waiting to come in, another image waiting to come in. So two questions. Does this feel expansive enough within a 3-year container? We're going to glue this down within the next week. That's the deadline. That's the intention. We'll let the people catch up with the replay and then we're going to glue this down. And if there is a gap, is that an intentional gap? Is there something ready and waiting to fall in that we haven't yet seen that we can go back through the magazines, or is that an intentional gap and maybe that's going to reveal itself later on? Okay, I'll put those in the chat. Okay, so as I was doing that work, I felt like some of the things could shift, and there was a pairing that I hadn't spotted. So I had cut out this word essential, and I thought it was on the discard pile, and then I saw the perfect place for it on top of a swimming pool. So there was something really lovely in that invitation to my well-being, to use our local pool, which is like in a lovely spa setting. It's very nice. And then also, that essential. I need to book a holiday, like we need a family holiday. That would be really nice. And then also with the growing, like I grouped some of the growing together, and then magical ended up on top of growing. So I feel like there's something in that around it is just actually really beautiful to connect to growing plants and flowers, and I do love it. And I think somewhere along the line last year I just got really disappointed and sad because a lot of my seeds didn't come to anything. The dahlias that I spent ages like overwintering and then bringing back to life, like had one or two flowers. Like it just didn't really burst into life last year the way I was imagining and the way that I'd planned for. But there's something that I want to connect back to. The whole page is full. I'm not going to pick it up because it'll drop off, but there's no white space here, and that feels right. So that's what's happened with this particular vision board. In terms of the expansive question, I feel like maybe this is a stage of life thing, but I'm 42 now. And so I feel like I can hold enough experience of what I've had in life before around work, family, relationships, travel to know that this feels really good. Like it just feels like a really happy board. And I feel really excited about living this life. It feels like I'm living a lot of it already, but there's also those kind of bits of curiosity and those bits of the unknown that I'm excited about. I think that what I will do, because I have an intention around this anyway, is I'll find an image of a book and cut a book out and put that on because it's not here. And so that's where, and this is why we've left this to last. If you have an intention around something that you'd really like to make happen, so mine is this memoir project, and it's a project as well as a memoir. So there's something that I really want to make that happen, and I've already set the balls in motion. I've got 10,000 words of a memoir. Can't quite believe it, but I have. So I need it to be on here, otherwise I won't see it every day. And that's really the intention of these boards, to hang them up and go, that makes me really happy. That connects me to the things that I listened to back in spring. That makes me feel really expansive. That makes me feel really curious, really excited. And then you'll walk past it one day and be like, hey, I made that happen. How did we do that? So I'm going to go and find a picture of a book. If there's anything else for you as you're looking at it, go and have a little look. If there's anything around your goals that you've set for this year or things that you might want and it's not there, go and find an image of it. Okay, I got one that says the word book in a magazine, so I was quite chuffed about that. So I've got the word book, and then I also got a beautiful white library image, which is actually really timely for me because there's been something coming up around, especially because I write on Substack a lot. There's been something around when is a book not a book and it's a project. So I've self-published 3 creativity journals and somebody else referred to it as a book before I did. I didn't think I was making a book, but somebody said your book. And I was like, oh yeah, I have made a book. Like I made creativity and wellbeing journals. It's a certain type of book. So something about those library shelves and something about seeing my book, this new book that I'm writing on those shelves feels really important. And I have had my journals in a bookshop and that felt really special, but it also felt like it's not quite the right place for it. Like it was great that it was there. It's also been for sale in an art gallery. But yeah, there's something around this book fitting on a bookshelf, even though it's a book and a creative project, and where I go with that. So I'm glad I caught that one before I finished the board off. So what we'll do next and now is we'll stick this down in a way that makes the most sense to us. So glue is great, but if you want to pin images and spend a little bit longer with them, perhaps you want to meditate, perhaps you want to work through why is that there? Like, does it need to move over there? Perhaps you're not super sure. We're going to give ourselves a week. I like to work with, like, Sarah's not here now, but she'll talk about it in terms of human design. It's like this splenic energy of like, yes, that's all right. So I'm super happy and ready to stick all of this down right now. Like I don't need to sit with it, but that's not everybody's creative process. So see what yours is, and see what else comes up. With the 6-month intention, I'm going to send some follow-up journal prompts so we can do some more journaling around this intention, because quite often with the visual side, things come up and we're like, wow, what's that about? So mine has the magic of letter writing on it. Now, I do love writing letters, but there's something else in that for me. So I'll go into that. So I'll send you some journal prompts for that. I'm going to stop recording now because we've pretty much finished the work on the vision board class. The last thing I wanted to say was just to repeat back the invitation at the start that this is your work. There's no blueprint for it. All we're doing is getting to know ourselves and getting to know our creative practice. We all have a creative practice, whether we feel we're creative or not, whether we feel we have a creative job or not. We all have a creative practice and we can find it and we can hone it as a craft the same way that we can with writing. This, for me, is a beautiful way to see creativity brought to life in quite a short space of time. I can get more frustrated when it's something more technical. So I love knitting, but if there's a knitting pattern, that hurts my brain and that feels like work. So there's this like sliding scale where some people want that and they want the challenge of that, and other people are like, I just need it to be easy. So the ways into creative journaling workshops that we do, it's all that sort of stuff. It's like what feels right for me. But thank you all. This is going to go into Substack chat, and I'd love you to share all of your images for vision boards when they're ready. But thank you for being here watching the replay. I'm going to stop recording now so I can chat with the people that are here live.